But that kind of leads me into another point that I was thinking about earlier that I was mentioning to Jake, that, I mean, a lot of electronic music, if they are able to pack emotion into it, which I think, you know, you have to give them kudos enough on that, because they're using fake sounds, you know, digital sounds to try to express humanity, which is kind of an interesting idea. But so, you know, to be able to pull that off is good enough, but then especially, you know, the one human element of a lot of these songs is the singer's voice. But the singer's voice, he doesn't get very dynamic. He kind of stays in the middle the whole time. And he never really just belts it, but he never really just whispers. He's just very in the middle the whole time. And so it kind of brings this deadpan, almost monotone mood to the vocals, and then somehow all the emotional aspects of the album come out through these digital beats, and it just works so well. Like I was telling Jake, I learned how to play track 10, Consequence, on a guitar. It's, you know, pretty simple chord progression, like 5 or 6 chords that are just kind of switched up for the verses and choruses, use 4 of them.
That's the closer too, isn't it?
Yeah.
The technical closer to the album.
Yeah, there's an expanded version with a few instrumental tracks at the end. That, like, my brother Pat actually says those are kind of some of his favorite tracks, so check that out if you want to get deeper into that. But yeah, technically the closer of the album, Consequence, like I was saying, it's very simple, and I learned how to play it on guitar, and I'll play it and sing it, and I find that even when I'm playing it with a real guitar, singing the words, I still can't pack the feeling into it that they somehow are able to do with electronic beats and, you know, and synthesizers. And it's amazing to me that someone was able to do that.
I see it as that's the byproduct of a very well written song. It's very well composed, and when an album includes things like that, that's, you know, like what we were talking about earlier with the guitar crunches and the slow building of effects and stuff. But I mean, these are typical songwriting. I don't want to say gimmicks or tricks, but, you know, effects that's how songwriters get you to feel that emotion in ways that, you know, not everybody can. Yeah. That's what makes them special.
So yeah, is there anything else you want to say about this?
Sure. I really like Pick Up the Phone. We've talked about that a lot. That song always takes me off guard, because I feel that the introduction to that song, it starts differently, and then when it butts in the chorus, the entire song takes on a different mood, which you don't find a lot in songs, and I really like that. But I know that you and Pat both love Solitaire so much, and I like Solitaire, but I really want to just get your thoughts on this.
On which one?
Solitaire.
Solitaire. I'm glad you asked, because that is one that I wanted to talk about. I really like that song as much from a songwriting aspect as I do from a production aspect. I work a lot with music production, and I love the way that song is produced, because the vocals are, I don't think they're entirely hard panned to the right speaker, but they're very much so. The vocals lean very heavy to the right, so it just kind of provides this off balance, kind of awkward feel. And I mean, the beat is even panned that way too, and it all sounds very scratchy. Like the vocals, there's some effects on it that make it kind of a little harsher. I mean, he doesn't really perform the vocals harsh, but the way they're produced come off that way. So it all just kind of comes together to make this kind of grind that once it hits the chorus, and right after he says the lines, but we like it, and it busts into it, and there's this other aspect of the beat that comes in that's really scratchy, and it just all fits together so well out of this kind of chaos that I just think is really cool, whenever you can make something kind of chaotic sound cohesive at the same time. But then beyond that, I mean, that's another one that, like Consequence, I could see a guy playing on an acoustic guitar and singing to, just because the chord progression and the melody is so good. So I think that all those aspects combined, when you just take a well-written song and then present it and produce it in a way that's beyond, you know, the norm, that's kind of surpassing just what you traditionally think a song like that would be. So that's why I really like that one particularly. But then my other favorites, I mean, like Pick Up the Phone and This Room and Consequence, are just kind of different ratios of all the aspects I talked about with the production and the songwriting. Some I think are are better produced than written, whereas like Consequence, I think, is just such a well-written song, and the production is really good, but it doesn't make it as much for me because the songwriting is already so good that I mean, it almost doesn't even matter. It's just such a good song.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it for me.
So what would you rate it? First of all, is this, we have our top, Tom and I for many years now have done an annual, at least annual list
sometimes
of
biannual.
our top 200 favorite albums or 100 favorite albums.
They've grown.
Yeah, as we continue to listen to more music, we can't narrow it down to just 100. So we're right. I think we have posted both of our top 200s.
Yes.
So would this make top 200 for you?
This did make my top 200.
Oh, it was already on there.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly where.
Has it risen since?
Yeah, it would have. I think when I first did this, it was when I first made that list. I hadn't been listening to it for very long, maybe just a few months, but still in that time I listened to it a lot. I don't even want to take a guess because then people can just go check and see how wrong I am. But I don't think it was in the top 100. It was somewhere down there, but maybe in the 140s. But
well, and these lists aren't us saying what we think the album, how good the album is. It's just how much we personally relate to it, how much we like it in comparison to all the other albums we like and listen to.
And there's a lot of albums on there that I'll have an album by Orgy above an album by the Beatles or Led Zeppelin or some classic band like that I like better. But if I try really hard to look at it from an objective point, I can't really justify it. It's just kind of like, you know what, this album means a lot to me because I've been listening to it for a long time, and
you have memories associated with it, moods.
Exactly. And
which that stuff is always a part of music and what makes moods or music better. And one thing that I feel that never gets involved in a musical critique of any kind is timing of the music. In regards to, I think music is strongly affected. I think music is very similar to wine in that where it's made has an important aspect to it, and the timing of it. What you're doing when you're listening to that music really affects how you interpret that music. I think the season music is very seasonal to me.
To me too.
I can only listen to Modest Mouse basically in October. It's Halloween music for me. I can only listen to M. Ward in November. I mean, it's really a month by month process for me. And then I have certain music I listen to in January.
And that's not going to be the same for everybody. And you realize that. So it's just kind of, everyone listens to music differently and has their priorities. And for us, two people that have been listening to music very, very intently for so long, the longer back an album goes to me, for me, the more it'll mean to me. So that plays a big part in it.
Well, do we want to give scores? Do you think this is a good idea? I mean, our scores mean nothing compared to the scores that actual music reviewers and not just two guys giving their opinions. But
oh man, on what kind of scale?
I don't know.
I'd say if it was on like a 0 to 100 scale, which then you can almost get too picky, I would give it somewhere probably in the 80s.
Upper 80s or?
Probably mid 80s.
Mid 80s.
Lower to mid 80s, because it doesn't just blow me away to the point where I'm like, this is the best thing ever written. I mean, that would be upper 90s or 100, which obviously there are albums I feel that way about. But this one, I mean, I just feel like they were ambitious with what they were doing and were able to pull it off. And in a way that really hits me. So I would give it lower to mid 80s.
I would push 87, 88, just because it really, I think, is a well-composed album. You can tell these guys are talented.
Yeah.
And it grabs me. I like it, and I think that if it grabs me, it's probably gonna get a hold of some other people out there. I mean, I think people will be able to relate. Having said that, it does take a few times to really get into it, as I've learned. So
worth it.
Yeah, I like it. I would say I would recommend it to others, but I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it. It's a good album.
We pretty much covered it.
Strong recommendation.
So check it out if you think you'd be interested in the kind of things that we've been talking about.
We're glad that, if you're watching this, we're glad you're taking the time to see what we're all about. I'm Jake. This is
Tom again.
Yep, and we're Velocities in Music, and our big thing is we want to move music critique forward. Thanks.